TBD, Justin Hunt, It's All Happening. Kendrick Lamar's Damn was released just over a month ago, and one song in particular has stuck with me more than any he's ever released. XXX is absolutely one of the hardest joints on the project, but in an unconventional way. It absolutely reps for an entire generation. TBD.
Static selector.
On surface level, XXX feels like 3 songs in one. 3 different flows, there's 3 different stories arguably loosely connected, there's 3 different beat flips. The first occurs after Beacon's melancholy summation of the American dream. Here's a clip.
America, please take my hand. Can you help me understand?
New Kung Fu Kenny!
New Kung Fu Kenny! I love that part. Now, what's also dope about this track is that there's 3 different guest vocals on XXX as well. A lot of 3s here. Along with Kid Capri and Beacon, who we just heard, Bono closes out the track singing about our country, 'tis of thee. It's not a place, he says. This country is to me a sound of drum and bass. You close your eyes to look around. That's the undercurrent of this track. America. Kendrick talked about XXX and its commentary in his conversation with Zane Lowe.
Control madness, you know, us trying to control this madness. So when you hear them lyrics of what he's saying, you know, it's a place, you know, it's an idea. It's kind of us trying to control that idea through lyrics, through song, you know.
Is it a good idea, even the original idea of what America is?
For better or for worse, it's a content idea. A content idea. Simple as that.
Organized madness, controlled madness makes sense because right when XXX moves into its main conversation on gun violence and revenge, that's exactly what this joint sounds like. Organized madness. Roll the clip out.
I can't sugarcoat the answer for you, this is how I feel. If somebody kill my son, that means somebody getting killed. Tell me what you do for love, loyalty and passion of all the memories collected, moments you can never touch. I wait in front of niggas' spot and watch him hit his block. I catch a nigga leaving service if that's all I got. I chip a nigga, then throw the blower in his lap. Walk myself to the court like, bitch, I did that. Ain't no black power when your baby killed by a coward.
Did you listen to that beat? Jesus! That joint sounds straight out of Compton. Now, DJ Dahi, Soundwave, Top Dog, Mike Will Made It all received production credits, adding to this odd amalgamation of talent across XXX. Really think about the names that came together to create this piece of organized madness. Mike Will Made It, Bono from U2, Kid Capri, that just screams America and Ireland. From Mike to Plug, XXX is a marriage of the unexpected, and for me, the conclusion is what caught me most off guard and stuck to my ribs like lyrics from Talib. K-Dot calls out American hypocrisy with grace and grandiosity.
It's nasty when you set us up, then roll the dice, then bet us up. You overnight the big rifles, then tell Fox to be scared of us. Gang members or terror us, etc., etc. America's reflections of me. That's what a mirror does.
That's what a mirror does. Look, songs like this don't come around often. At times it's sublime. At times it's scratch-tastic. It's narrative-based and introspective, leaving a trail of lingering questions long after last listen. Is this song a cautionary tale? Is Justifiable revenge justifiable? Does the content idea of America that Kendrick was talking about in that interview with Zane Lowe, does that apply to all people or just people who happen to be corporations? Reportedly, there were 6 verses originally on this song. What do those sound like? Most chatter surrounding XXX points to a conversation on the Black American experience. This genius annotation, for example, has 253 thumbs up and refers to an America that dissuades black youth from going to school. But outside of the 8 N-bombs dropped and that one black power, thematically you can argue XXX offers a much larger discussion, one that's almost completely raceless and descriptive of 95 million millennials nationwide. The millennial generation begins in 1980 and ends in the year 2000 by most demographers. We have no memory of a time when there weren't video games. We have no memory of a time when there weren't personal computers. We have no memory of a time when there wasn't hip-hop. We are the largest generation in the history of this nation, and no one seems to like millennials. People can't stand millennials, can't wait to hate on millennials. The New York Post described millennials as the worst generation. Forbes ran an article last month titled "The Real Reason People Hate Millennials." Micah Tyler wrote a song about millennials and their most craptastic qualities and notched over 3 million views. Here's a clip.
Criticism isn't easy for their ears. They feel like they know most everything. See, they grew up with undeserved confidence, 'cause they got trophies just for participating. M-I-L-L-E-N-N-I-A. Gotta love millennials.
That song is catchy though, can't front. You know what's funny? If I had to guess, I'd say Micah's probably a millennial, which is the irony of millennials. Millennials are so hated that they hate themselves. Check out this article. It's called "I'm a Millennial and My Generation Sucks." Millennials have been described as narcissistic, selfish, self-absorbed, materialistic, addicted to technology, a scourge on the conventional workplace with an unqualified sense of accomplishment, and a disdain for doing anything the old way. So that's another reason why I think of millennials when I hear XXX. When Kendrick raps about Johnny and Johnny don't want to go to school no more, Johnny said books ain't cool no more, Johnny want to be a rapper like his big cousin, all the way up until Johnny catches a body, Johnny could be Kanye West. And Ye isn't a millennial, he's a Gen Xer. But who else epitomizes millennials' selfie sensibilities more than the Louis Vuitton Don?
Fuck you and your corporation, y'all niggas can't control me.
Can you blame Johnny for dismissing school though? Student loan debt has stunted millennials' financial livelihood to the point where most move back in with their parents after college. According to a TD Ameritrade study reported by USA Today, 40% said student loan debt delayed buying a home, 31% said it delayed saving for retirement, 27% said it delayed moving out of their parents' house, 25% said it delayed having children, 21% said it delayed getting married. Overall, 23% of millennials say the college education they receive will never be worth the cost. That's a quarter of an entire age group. This is the highest number in history. Kids in the Hall. My favorite Kids in the Hall album was called "School Was My Hustle." Now it's as if you're getting hustled if you decide to go to school. Millennials weathered the Great Recession, the largest economic catastrophe in 80 years since the Great Depression, which is something most members of the greatest generation were barely old enough to fully experience. So not only did millennials have to compete with each other for jobs, but they also had to compete with baby boomers and Gen Xers who had also been laid off. Millennials also spend half their lives at war. According to the Washington Post, Afghanistan and Iraq are the longest and third longest wars in US history. Vietnam is the second longest war, World War II is the fourth. So millennials have to manage through all that, plus all of the baby boomers and Gen Xers' dusty worldviews. They're still stuck on things we abhor, like walls and racism and homophobia and coal. Who cares about coal? But millennials aren't allowed to point out these challenges because every other generation and millennials are quick to point fingers at millennials for pointing blame at other people, which is ironic because the baby boomers point blame at everything. Let's break it down. Baby boomers created cable news, which scared the depends off of our grandparents. They went from free love to greed is good, made government a dirty word, then gave tax dollars to private wealth because it was supposed to trickle down to the rest. And when it didn't, they blamed welfare queens and super predators and Mexicans and Muslims and, you guessed it, millennials. This is what comes to mind when I hear the setup Kendrick describes at the end of XXX when he talks about "you overnight big rifles, then tell Fox to be scared of us." Well, we don't believe you. You need more people. The point is this, there's a Time magazine feature called the Me generation. In that feature, Tom Brokaw offers great perspective on millennials. He talks about our positivity and how our cautiousness when making life decisions is an apt response to the world around us. He says their great mantra has been challenge convention. Challenge convention. Find new and better ways of doing things. And so that ethos transcends the wonky people who are inventing new apps and embraces the whole economy. When I think about millennials, I think about Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook. I think about million-dollar Insta businesses like Shade Room. I think about how we're inherently entrepreneurs and how 35% of us started our own businesses just to generate extra income. 35% isn't a percentage indicative of a lazy generation. In his influential blog this week, Bob Lexus described our political system as rigged via gerrymandering. So I don't dwell on our generation's reluctance to embrace an archaic system where you lose even if you get the most votes. I think about the power e-outrage will inevitably carry as our lives move more VR than RL, and how our interconnectivity spawned awesomeness like the Arab Spring, Occupy Wall Street, Women's March, Science March, all things millennials champion. I think about how even though we're saddled with debt, we're still the most educated. I think about how even though we're constantly at war, living in a craptastic economy and a cavernous wealth gap, we still remain relentlessly creative and optimistic. There's a fortitude at the core of who we are as millennials that many millennials are still reluctant to embrace, and that's unfortunate. This age group bridges the great divide, analog and digital, old school and new, and we just became old enough to be president of the United States. When will older generations realize that the challenges this generation face are real, and we've weathered this organized madness while still creating the new economy? When will millennials, when will we realize that we're the hardest generation alive? TBD. TBD every Saturday, 7:30 a.m. PST, right here. Hit the hashtag TBD show. Thank you very much. Before we close out, big shout out to Fly Science. She just got into grad school. Big things coming. Makes dope videos about science and hip hop. Links in the description, so check her out. Let her know what you think. But this is the type of stuff that I think really embodies the millennial generation. I love this XXX song. And one line I didn't point out was when Kendrick says, "Take the gratitude from them. I bet it'll show you something." We keep innovating in new ways. I really believe we're the hardest generation alive, and it isn't taken away from any of the challenges of previous generations. It's just the uniqueness of the things that we're experiencing. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, let me know what you think about XXX. It's my favorite joint from Kendrick this year. One of my favorite joints from him of all time. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow @TheCompanyMan on everything. This is just a glimpse into the paradigm shift. TBD.
And the commandments are slightly different. Honor thy father and thy mother, so that you may live long in their basement. Thou shalt not steal, except thine music online. That's